52? Yeah. Yes, 12, 13, 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nasta Prayeshva Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Tata first, okay. Utpatya Tarasha Dayamana Tatat Upau Dashaika Yojanat Tungan Nipitatur Atho Puvi Tata Utpatyatarasa Dayamana Tatat Ubau Dashaika Yojanat Tungan Nipitatur Atho Bhuvi Tata Utpatyatarasa Dayamana Tatat Upau Dashaika Yojana Tungan Nipetatur Atho Bhuvi Tata Upatyatarasa Dayamana Tatat Upau Dashaika Yojana Tungan Nipetatur Atho Bhuvi. Next, please. Tata Utpatyatarasa Dayamana Tatat Upau Dashaika Yojana Tungan Nipetatur Atho Bhuvi. And yes, Prabhu. Tata Utpatyatarasa Eka Buddhanat Uttam Dayamana Tatarbu Tetatur Atho Bhuvi Tata, from it, the mountain. Utpatya, jumping. Tarasa, with haste. Dayamana, which were burning. Tatat, those sides. Upau, the two of them. Dasa eka, 11. Yojanat, yojanas. Tungat, high. Nipetatu, they fell. Atha, down. Bhuvi, to the ground. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The two of them then suddenly jumped from the burning mountain, which was 11 yojanas high, and fell to the ground. Purport: 11 yojanas is approximately 90 miles. Very short purport. And then 14 was also 13. I only read the Sanskrit. Alakshyamana ripuna sanugena yatuttamau svapurang punar ayatau samudra parikam nripa. Translation: unseen by their opponent or his followers, O king, those two most exalted Yadus returned to their city of Dwarka, which had the ocean as a protective moat. Text 14. Sopi daktav ityama itimrisha manvano balakeshavau palam akrishya sumahan magadan magado yadyau. Translation: Jarasandha, however, mistakenly thought that Balaram and Keshava had burned to death in the fire. Thus he withdrew his vast military force and returned to the Magadha kingdom. So, these three verses, Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sanyavadi Prasadyadi Satarani. So in these three verses we have one incident of Krishna completely being misunderstood by King Jarasandha. He was of the demonic nature, and Krishna, he doesn't reveal himself to those who don't surrender unto him. Yoga Maya Samanvita, to those who are not devoted of demonic natures, he is covered by his internal potency, Krishna says, by his internal potency. The relation here is that Krishna and Balaram, as we have discussed yesterday, fled the battlefield twice, actually, and climbed up this mountain, and they were apparently exhausted from coming to this mountain, but in this exhausted condition, they still climbed up the mountain. Then they jumped down these 11 yojanas, which is approximately 90 miles. They didn't get smashed there. And then Jarasandha, then they returned to the city of Dwarka, which was on an island, so it was protected by the ocean. And Jarasandha thought that they had burned in the fire that he had set to the mountain. Thus he withdrew his vast military force and returned to the Magadha, to his own kingdom. So everybody went back home, everything resolved. Krishna went back to Dwarka, or went to Dwarka, where he had just recently transferred the inhabitants of Mathura. And there he has his home with his 16,108 queens and so many palaces. He is the supreme enjoyer, Krishna, Purusha Param. So he is the fountainhead of all pleasure, and he's going home, and it must have been really nice for him there with all these queens. The question, of course, that comes up, how will he be able to take care of so many queens? That is another puzzle. Krishna is, by some people, they say that since he had so many wives, he was immoral. This is said by some, that he is. Krishna wasn't always a proponent of morality, of strict morality, we could say. He was, many times, he broke his promise to return to Vrindavan, for example. He didn't. Actually, he did return to Vrindavan, but much later, and only to send the inhabitants of Vrindavan back home to their original spiritual abodes, but much later. And in the Battle of Kurukshetra, he gave the advice that Yudhisthira should speak a lie, the thing with the elephant. So many times Krishna didn't really behave up to the laws of morality. Quite different from Lord Ramachandra. Ramachandra is also an incarnation, is in one of the incarnations of Krishna. Eti Changsa Kalapam Sam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So Krishna is the highest. But Lord Rama is also one of his incarnations, and Lord Ramachandra, we just celebrated Dasera, he is known as Maryada Bhagavan, or the one who follows the principles of Dharma and fulfills all the duties perfectly. There was not one instance in Lord Rama's life where he contradicted the laws of religion. There was some doubt when Lord Ramachandra killed Vali, Sugriva's brother, if this was proper, but it was all explained. So Lord Ramachandra is giving a very good example, especially when he is acting as a perfect king and instituting this Rama Rajya, or the perfect kingdom of God, where everybody follows the order of God. Many Indian politicians, they promise we're going to reintroduce this Rama Rajya, this perfect kingdom, but it is not possible. It is humanly not possible, and it is especially not possible in the age of Kali. It's just not possible. It's not possible to follow Varnashram Dharma in the age of Kali. When Lord Ramachandra ruled, it was Treta Yuga. So the Varnashram Dharma system had been introduced in Treta Yuga because there were first signs of people not following the order of God. The perfect Yuga was the Satya Yuga, the golden age, when everybody was Paramahansa. So actually the earth was like almost a spiritual, close to spiritual planet, because everybody, all the inhabitants were Paramahansas. They would all meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But at the end of Satya Yuga, irreligion started to creep in. And Treta Yuga started, and since this envy between human beings crept in, the Varnashram Dharma system of 4 Varnas was introduced. Society was organized and prescribed duties were set up, and they were supervised. The execution of the prescribed duties was supervised by the king, by the holy king of that, by the particular. I have to mute this. Okay. So in this way, since Treta Yuga, the 4 ethical principles started already declining. 4 principles of truthfulness, mercifulness, cleanliness, and austerity. And age by age, they decline more and more. And in Kali Yuga, we only have 1/4 of the religious principles still there, and that quarter is supposed to be truthful. If at least we can be a little truthful and understand our fallen condition, then many problems can be resolved. If we understand, I am small, Krishna is great, then we conclude, then we have to surrender to God, then so many problems can be resolved. Actually, the earth can, for those who take the advantage of that truthfulness, in those places where this truthfulness is being observed, it can be actually very favorable for spiritual realization also. So the kingdom of God, of course, is there for those who chant God's holy name. This is the prerogative of Kali Yuga, that Kalaya Doshi Nadera Chan, that this Kali Yuga is an ocean of mistakes, an ocean of faults. But there's one good thing, and that is that by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can achieve Mukta Sangha Param Rajat, the supreme type of liberation, and even Krishna Prema, by chanting the holy name. So, Treta Yuga, we had Lord Ramachandra. Then in Tawapara Yuga, Krishna came. And Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, amazingly, Lord Krishna appeared at the end of Tawapara Yuga. But Lord Krishna is the Yuga avatar for Tawapara Yuga. So, Krishna appeared at the end of Tawapara Yuga, and right after Krishna's appearance, the Kali Yuga came in. So, how is it that Krishna is he shows the authorized process of yoga for the Tawapara Yuga, which is deity worship. Manmana bhava mat bhakto madhyati mamna maskuru. Bow down before me, worship me, become a devotee. And he only appeared at the end of Tawapara Yuga. This is quite interesting. We were discussing yesterday that many things Krishna can do from his home office. He can be there in Goloka Vrindavan and do everything by remote activity, remotely, because he has his energy. So similarly, to introduce the particular process of worship, of yoga, for a particular age, Krishna, we can see here with the example of Dwapara Yuga, Krishna did not have to come at the beginning of Dwapara Yuga. He did it by remote control. So this, if one observes history, it would just have come about that people from the process of Treta Yuga, where these sacrifices were the authorized process, coming to Tawapara Yuga, where temple worship was the authorized process. They just started to worship the temple more and the deity more, kind of automatically. But we can see here from this example that since Krishna is the avatar for the Yuga avatar for Tawapara Yuga, therefore, actually, this was organized by him. The yoga process was organized by him. But he only had to come from his home office. He only had to come personally at the end of Tawapara Yuga. And then this is one riddle why right after Krishna's appearance, Kali Yuga set in. Krishna does not change the ordinary laws of nature. He generally doesn't do it. It's just the ordinary laws of nature will dictate that first there is satya, then Treta, then Dwapara, then Kali Yuga. Krishna will not change it. Just like he will not change the ordinary seasons, cycle of ordinary seasons. Krishna, it will always be like that. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. Then again, spring, summer, fall, and winter. Spring, summer. Krishna will not change it because it makes sense to be like that, for the material world to be organized like this. Makes sense. It has been created like that by Lord Brahma, and Brahma is the creative incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It says in the Bhagavatam, in the matter of creation, Lord Brahma is as powerful as Krishna. So he has given full power to Lord Brahma to introduce these Yuga cycles and all these things that happen in this material cosmos. And Krishna he supervises it, Maya Dakshina Prakriti, Suyate Sacharacharam, Hetunani Nakauntiya, Jagat Viparivartate. But remotely, he is within this cosmos and still he's not within the cosmos. The cosmos is only his energies working. His energies work in the cosmos. And he is still there. He's much more. He is there in Goloka Vrindavan, in Vaikuntha. There's the Brahman effulgence. So Krishna is much more than the cosmos. And all these glorious, at the end of the 10th chapter, Krishna explains that all these glorious manifestations in this material world come only from the spark of his splendor. So the spark of Krishna's splendor, that is the Paramatma, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, he who maintains the universe. So, but once in a while Krishna does come and he performs these wonderful pastimes, like first he climbs this mountain of approximately 90 miles, then he jumps together with Balaram, he jumps from this mountain and he isn't crushed. Then from there he walks to Dwarka, quite a distance. So wonderful pastimes. And in this way he constantly befuddles the demons. Jarasandha always thought, for Jarasandha there was nothing like God. There was only, if he saw a form, then mutamam nabijanati. He says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the Mudas will not understand him. They do not understand his superior nature and his supreme dominion over all that be. They think he is an ordinary person. He thought Krishna was an ordinary person. Bhagavad Gita also explains these two verses, 9:11 and 7:24, that they think that he is a temporary manifestation of Brahman. That actually God is impersonal. He is the supreme Brahman. And many today still think, Hindus. And Krishna is just only one manifestation of Brahman, acting for some time in the mode of goodness. But it is when he does like it's under Maya. It's ruled by the material energy. So Krishna has a material body in the mode of goodness, which is a temporary manifestation of the Brahman. And these people are called Mayavadis. And we find many such gods today. There was one recent god who had recently died after he spent years in a wheelchair. I won't mention his name. But he was declared by his followers and also himself that he was Krishna. There were paintings going around of him. He was playing flute and things like that. But if you read the philosophies, they explain that he is a temporary manifestation of Brahman. God comes down. It's a temporary manifestation of Brahman. And these people are called Mayavadis. We have an issue with the Mayavadis. So, but Krishna is not like that. He's Svayam Bhagavan. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who comes down himself. He explains that in the beginning of 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that he himself, Ajopi mam avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san, sambhavami atma mayaya. He comes down in his original transcendental form as he is, although he is the Supreme Lord of all living entities. Krishna, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, comes down as Bhagavan in his original transcendental form, the two-armed form, to enjoy with his devotees. He also confirms this in 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna wants Arjuna, after having seen the universal form, he wants to see the original form of Krishna, and first the four-armed form. The four-armed form. Arjuna describes he wants to see that form with a club, with discus, with shankha, and with Padma, with lotus flower. Arjuna wants to see that form. So Krishna shows that form as Vishnu, four-arm form, right after he turns into his most confidential form, which is not even seen by the demigods, and that is the two-armed form. That is Krishna's original form, which is very difficult to see, and it is only perceived by the pure devotees. Only Arjuna can see that form. Now, you may say, well, it isn't that only Arjuna saw that form. When Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty, all the Yadus saw that form. But only very few were able to see that this two-armed form was the same, self-same Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Even Arjuna, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, it seems, well, it is Prabhupada explained, he was put into that state by Krishna himself, so Krishna could preach to him and explain that state of ignorance, but Arjuna was taking him to be a friend, ordinary human being. He asked for forgiveness in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Please forgive me. We've been sitting on the same bed together. We have been joking together. We have been behaving like brothers. They were cousins. Please forgive me. Now, see, it's this universal form. Even Arjuna temporarily is put into that condition that he thinks Krishna to be an ordinary being. When Krishna explains that he told the science of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, Arjuna becomes doubtful. Come on, what type of joke is this? The sun god Vivaswan is much older than you're trying to fool me or what? And then Krishna has to explain, no, many births have passed. You remember, the difference between you and me is that you forget your past births and I remember them. That's only one thing. That Krishna remembers all his past appearances, but Arjuna doesn't. So Arjuna was probably maybe around when Krishna explained Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, but Arjuna forgot, whereas Krishna didn't. So there are many differences between the living entity and Krishna. Other differences are also explained in the Upanishad. There it says, the Supreme Lord does not have veins. He doesn't have veins. He is swifter than the swiftest. Everywhere he has his hands and legs. This is explained in Sri Upanishad, in other Upanishads also. So there are differences. The nature of Krishna's body is explained throughout Vedic literature. So here, therefore, if we take the instructions of the Upanishads, it is not extraordinary that Krishna jumps from a mountain that is 90 miles high. It is nothing special for him. since he's got this transcendental body, in the battle of Kurukshetra also, there was this one incident where Krishna again broke one of his promises. His promise was he would not participate in the fight. But when Arjuna got into such severe trouble, being attacked by Bhishma Dev, and Arjuna's chariot was already destroyed by Bhishma Dev's weapon, and Bhishma was about to kill Arjuna, then Krishna jumped down from the chariot, took one of the wheels and raced again towards Bhishma Dev and was about to kill Bhishma Dev. Fortunately, the sun set. So before that, Bhishma Dev had already shot so many arrows at Krishna's transcendental body. Krishna bleeded profusely. And it is Bhishma Dev, he had made the promise, no, today I will kill the Pandavas. He had made the promise to Duryodhana. Duryodhana had been saying, well, the Pandavas are still around. It seems you're preoccupied. They're your grandchildren, and you are partial with the Pandavas. You're not fighting properly. Why they still live? You're the greatest fighter on earth, so why do the Pandavas still live? It is because you are siding with the Pandavas. You're siding with the opposing party. Bhishma was fighting on the party of the Kurus. And then Bhishma said, okay, no, I will kill them tomorrow. And he had 5 arrows set aside to kill the Pandavas. And these arrows, Duryodhana kept them, so nothing would happen to them. So to give them to Bhishma next morning. And Krishna, again, see how he is. He told Arjuna, because Krishna is super soul within the heart, he knew that these 5 arrows were existing, also that they were kept by Duryodhana. So then Krishna said to Arjuna, well, Duryodhana's got the 5 arrows with which Bhishma is going to kill you tomorrow. That's insider knowledge. It's insider knowledge. Krishna, of course, knows he's in everyone's heart. But, according to mundane laws also, if somebody buys stocks and other things because of insider knowledge, that is a criminal activity. So he's just, he's passing the news to Arjuna, insider knowledge, Yeah, and so go there, Krishna says, and ask Duryodhana for the 5 arrows. So Arjuna went to Duryodhana after the day of battle and asked for those 5 arrows. And Duryodhana had promised, okay, I give you anything, and Kshatriya rules, very honest. In this Duryodhana, in this case, also very honest. After battle, if the Kshatriyas meet, then Duryodhana said, okay, Arjuna, nice to see you here. How was your day? Can I do anything for you? Please have a seat, have a cup of water. What can I do for you? Anything you want, I will give you. We can make peace, we stop fighting, okay. Then Arjuna said, I want those 5 arrows. Here they are, okay, good, your 5 arrows. Still, even without those 5 arrows, Bhishma fought as well as he could. And so that Krishna had to jump down from the chariot to protect his dearmost devotee, Arjuna. So at least what we can see here, that Krishna is keeping his promise to his devotee. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Nami Bhaktya Pranashyati, declare it boldly, he said to Arjuna, that my devotee will never will never perish. Declare that boldly. Why does he tell Arjuna to declare that? He tells Arjuna because Krishna is known for breaking his promise. but he will not break his he will not break his promise to protect his devotees. That will not he will not do. For the sake of protecting his devotees, Krishna will break any other moral codes or ethical prescriptions, any laws, any mundane laws. So, yeah, there, okay. And Upanishad said the Supreme Lord doesn't have veins. Then how can Krishna bleed? Can anybody explain this to me? You know, maybe the blood is there just in his body, in a sac only, in kind of sac, you know, no veins, no sac. No, it's not like that. It is because Krishna performs these pastimes, so for the pleasure of Bhishma Deva, he bled. Because this was one particular rasa, the rasa of chivalry, fighting rasa. So in that chivalrous rasa, there have to be wounds, and Bhishma Deva has to become very afraid, scared to death because of being killed by Krishna. And ordinarily, Krishna would have died if he wouldn't have had this transcendental body. You know what happened after the battle of Kurukshetra? They were on the chariot, and Krishna said to Arjuna, well, who of us is going to leave the chariot first? Arjuna, you must go first. Please, you go first. You leave the chariot first. Then, second person to leave the chariot was Krishna. After Krishna had left the chariot just exploded because it was so loaded by all these weapons that were shot at that chariot during the battle. So first, Arjuna left first. Okay, go away some distance. Then Krishna, bang, the whole thing just exploded. So this because of Krishna's transcendental body, and he can also extend this protection to living entities, especially his devotees, and also other material things, because he's the controller of material nature. So the battle of Kurukshetra was also won by this Devi Shakti, by this transcendental power, not by Purushartha Shakti, not by human power, because the army of the Pandavas was much smaller than those of the Kurus. And here also we see here, Krishna is not smashed by jumping from the mountain. So Jarasandha doesn't understand all this. He said, well, okay, they are probably burned, and he returned to his kingdom. So, okay, are there any questions so far? Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your class. My question is regarding a general question that you reminded me of based on the Battle of Kurukshetra. And it's you could say, an obstacle we all face in our life where we have to choose between sides, whose side someone on.
Yeah.
And Abraham Lincoln, when you were mentioning this, it reminded me of a very beautiful quote that Abraham Lincoln said. He says, "My concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, where God is always right." So usually, as conditioned souls, we have our pride, we have our ego. And especially when we come devotees, we generally say, God is on my side, as if God is subject to our order. So my question is, how do we know whether we're on God's side? Because it seems like it's a very egoistic thing to say, God is on my side. And one example I could share is in the 6th canto of Bhagavatam, Prabhupada mentions when King Chittaketu attained the mercy of Lord Shankarshan, he got amazing blessings from the Lord, personal blessings. So Prabhupada says he became proud from receiving the blessings of Lord Shankarshan. And because of this pride, he thought he could criticize anyone, and therefore he criticized Lord Shiva, Parvati, for sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva in the assembly. So then he got cursed because of it. So usually we say, oh, if I attain some special mercy from a Prabhupada disciple, from Prabhupada, from my guru, then I may not be so conscious of, respect. Oh, the Lord will protect me, my guru will protect me. So would you, I don't know if my question was clear, it was kind of merged together, but maybe you could share your thoughts on this mentality.
Yes, we do have in history people claiming themselves to be the chosen people. And you're from Palestine, right? How long have you been living in this country? A long time, yeah. So, in the Abrahamic traditions, this is very common, that certain nations claim to be the chosen people. The Jews claim to be the chosen people of God. That means they are better than anybody, and they attract a lot of criticism for that. And also in Palestine, they think this is our God-given country. We are connected with this country. This country is part of our body, our ancestors. We can never go away from here. So on that illusion, identification with the body and pride, so many problems come, especially in that part of the world. That Bhagavatam is very straight about it. He says if somebody identifies with the body, goes to places of worship only to take a bath, then he is no better than a cow or an ass. Read that to the Palestinians. They will probably burn the book. So, but this material religion, which the Bhagavatam calls actually Kaitava Dharma, or false, a cheating religion. According to Bhagavatam, the pure religion, ahaituki apratiyata yayatma suprasidati. Only unmotivated devotional service will satisfy the soul. And that is unmotivated devotional service, that is pure devotional service to Krishna. Unmotivated means not motivated by fruitive results, by in terms of wealth and profit, personal gratification. Karma, jnana, not motivated by jnana or the philosophical knowledge. Rupa goes, karma jnana anavitam, anukulyena krishnanu silanam bhaktir uttama. Only for the pleasure of Krishna. Always ask, what does Krishna want? Not what I want. This is my land. This is the land of my ancestors. And in monotheistic religions, we very much have that. That even in Christianity also, there is the concept you must bury the dead. In Judaism too, I think in Islam too. Because the body will somehow or other get resurrected at one time. I mean, this is the Christian concept, that when Jesus Christ comes back, then at that time, then the body will be resurrected. That identification with the body, The Egyptians had that too, mummification, because the self, that's the body. But that is not the real understanding. See, the Egyptian religion, of course, is very old, but the Vedic religion is older, and actually all, before everything else happened. Yeah.
Go underground so that it can have its own personal judgment day and whatever underground. And so that's the entire belief, where they can't even imagine burning the body. They find that's its next transition.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I remember I used to have nightmares running around a cemetery looking for a hijab, thinking I was just, because I left the religion. It was crazy trauma of how attached they are to the body.
Yeah.
I just want to share that.
Yeah, right. So the knowledge of the soul is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so therefore to claim that we are the chosen people, that's another illusion. Also that I am chosen by God, that happens many times. Who is chosen by God? Not the body. The body will die if you are chosen by God or if you are not. But what is chosen by God is the soul, and the soul, this first thing we have to realize. First lesson of Krishna, that we are not this material body, we are the soul. And in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the soul is described in all negative terms. It does not take birth, it does not die. All the things that apply to the body they don't apply to the soul. You cannot burn it, you cannot cut it to pieces, you cannot dry it by wind. And everything that you can do to the body, you cannot do it to the soul. So the negative descriptions, eternal, unborn, ever-existing, primeval. That's the only positive description of the soul. It is always there. And then in the 15th chapter of Krishna says, of Bhagavad Gita says, Krishna says, Mamai Vangsha Jiva Loke Jiva Buddha Sanatana. These souls are my part and parcels. And there we can see then, if they are Krishna's parts and parcels, then they have a relationship to Krishna. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he who wants to glorify Krishna, chant his holy name, you must Dinatapi Sunichina Toror Eva Saishnana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadari. You must be as humble as a straw in the street and always be prepared to pay obeisances to everybody else. And that even doesn't only refer to like the people of the same religion. When Srila Prabhupada came to US, he first stayed in the house of Sally Agrawal. So he was so humble to everybody. That is real religion. Because we know the body has no claims in this world. We are not this body. The body is only a tool to go back home, back to Godhead. Of course, there are universal rules to be followed as long as we are on this bodily existence. There are the Varnashram Dharma rules and duties, dharmas that everybody has. But in this world, we have to accept changes. I mean, in history, always people move from one place to another. And even the soul is called a wanderer. It always wanders from one place to the other. So that was your question about being chosen by God. Yeah. Any other question? Yes, please.
This point you made of Jarasandha not being able to understand Krishna, and looking from the point of view of Krishna's statements in Bhagavad Gita of the divine and demoniac natures, it seems very extraordinary in one sense that direct contact with Krishna through the 17 battles didn't allow for the soul to be touched in some way. So it seems that the demoniac nature with the demoniac ego is almost overriding spiritual realization, because he was having contact with Krishna 17 times through the battles. So it seems unusual.
That, again, what was unusual? That
Jarasandha despite those 17 frequent contacts with Krishna, didn't have some sort of spiritual realization that overrode his nature and his ego.
Well, even when Krishna was on the planet, only few people understood he was God. So the demons definitely didn't understand that. Even the that's their nature. Even the primordial demon, Hiranyakashipu, he thought that God was a material. He understood some philosophy amazingly, but he was saying, well, he is a coward. He is hidden in the hearts of the living entities. So demons, although there may be demons, materialists, there may be some concept of God, but they will think that some impersonal energy, is there directing everything. There may be a person, but in the monotheistic religions, you don't have Krishna's personality described. You have the qualities, like in Islam. There are 99 names of God, different names, qualities are described. But who is his father, who is his mother, who are his friends, who are his wives? God have wife, partner? Not known. Very little only is known. And that's why in monotheistic religions, a deity worship or worshipping a statue of God is forbidden, because it's nowhere described in monotheistic literature. It's forbidden. And we have had iconoclasts in Christian history, in Muslim. Jews, they are always very peaceful for some reason. They don't do that. In the Old Testament, it's described, though, that Abram, he destroyed all the demigod idols. So, like this, okay. Yes, so since there is no information in those scriptures, people, God, well, he's something up there, no clear understanding. Yes. Yeah, right. So if there's no clear understanding, it will be materialistic. But I want to say one thing about other religions. See, the process of devotion is in the service karma, jnanadi, anavritam. Krishna is not impressed by the jnana that we have. See, all this philosophy that I'm not this body, I'm the soul, that is jnana yoga. Krishna starts off the Bhagavad Gita with some nice philosophical terms. See how dehinyasmin yatadehe komarang yavanandara tatade hantara prapti diras tatana muyate, that he's explaining how even in this body the soul wanders, and it's likewise it goes into another body of death. So that is jnana, that is philosophy, abstract philosophy. Krishna also uses karma yoga arguments when he talks to Arjuna, like he said, for one who has been famed, infamy is worse than death. That's karma, addressing. But ultimately, karma, jnanadi, anavritam. So bhakti is independent of karma and jnana. So even if somebody doesn't know much, if he has love of God, then Krishna will give him that knowledge. Buddhi yoga dadami ham. He will give that knowledge in his heart. He will enlighten that person from within his heart. Even though he doesn't have such nice philosophical explanations as we have in the books, some people will not understand those. Take a child with limited cognitive facilities, he will not understand the Bhagavad Gita. Or an illiterate person. Krishna, if he is a lover of God, Krishna will enlighten him from his heart. So therefore, we shouldn't say that self-realization is only possible in Hinduism. Yes. If somebody is a lover, Prabhupada said that Whatever religion you do, if it leads to you loving God, then that is good. Yeah, any? Yeah, okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hi.
My last question is related to when you were mentioning where Arjuna had the association of Krishna, but he treated Krishna as a friend
Yeah.
on the same level. And I really appreciated Krishna's Trinadapi Sunichena, his humility, because we see that God is so great, but he acts like he's so small. And we're, as conditioned souls, kind of the opposite. We're so small, but we act like we're so great. So we see Krishna, when Arjuna was debating him, he never said, do you have any idea who I am? I'm the Alpha, the Omega, so please. So my question is related to the fact that definitely we know who Prabhupada's disciples are, and we hold them in such reverence, such as yourself. But when we saw you on Harvinam the other day, you were wearing ordinary clothes. So also when you come to the temple, people may not know who you are. And you know, as conditioned souls, we have our different moods. So sometimes we may disrespect so many people, not necessarily intentionally, just unintentionally, because you know we go through work, school, we have our moods. But we're more inclined to subdue our bad qualities when we're like, oh, it's a Prabhupada disciple, Hare Krishna. But when it's not, it's like, so what are some steps we could do for ourselves to take Krishna's position, his humility, even though our greatness isn't, we're not God in that sense. And it seems like that causes a lot of problems between relationships. When we subdue our bad qualities, when we know who somebody is. This is a Prabhupada disciple. Let me subdue my bad qualities. I don't want to commit any aparadhs. So, and we see this maybe a problem in our connecting to each other. So maybe you could share.
Yeah, I have some good experience with this because we have lived in US from 84 through 89. And we were local devotees. We had kids born, and we were serving at the temple in New Vrindavan for 2 years, in Miami Beach for 2 years, and in Atlanta for 1 year. So I didn't travel far and wide in the US. And after 5 years, we went back to Germany. So I'm not a well-known devotee. There are some YouTube videos with me, but I'm not such a well-known devotee. So, but I find it quite interesting. We did it in 2013, and also kind of this time, we went to different temples that we had never been to, you know. I'm an unknown person, you know, to the devotees there, and they had devotees that we had never met before. So I like to do some undercover job once in a while. So, but very soon, we didn't, even when we called, nobody knew us and things like that. But when we came and spoke about this and that, and then very soon, you know, they recognize that this is a devotee. I mean, there are many Prabhupada disciples that have left the movement, just as there are many disciples of present gurus that have also left, have given up the process. They will probably not be recognized so soon. But no, this was very fast, actually. There was one incident at the Los Angeles temple. When we came, Los Angeles, Watseka Avenue, like the main temple in Prabhupada's days. And so we came there, and there was some devotees. They asked me, "Where are you from?" I said, "From Germany." He said, "Heil Hitler." So I thought, have they all turned right-wing, you know, neo-Nazi? This is what they do here when devotees come. but that was an isolated incident. Devotees should always be humble, but it's a fact. At this time also, I call Atlanta Temple. No, we have no place to stay because they don't know me. I mean, we get requests calling in Hamburg because, we are traveling. We want to see the deities, but we do have material bodies that need to sleep overnight somewhere. Especially with my wife, I'm traveling and some care has to be taken. And I know from when I get these requests for the Hamburg, sorry, we have no accommodation at the temple, so I'm prepared. And but then when we explain our situation and they recognize us, Atlanta Temple, the good thing was we had lived there before, so they knew us. Some devotees, old from those days, 40 years ago, so that was the advantage. Also then, through their mediation, we were given a guest room here. I know this is a great privilege. Mostly temples were saying we have no rooms, although maybe a small room may be there sometimes. Of course, if I would be my younger brother, Satchidananda Swami, could I stay? He will not do that. His secretary will be doing it. Immediately, they would arrange a big festival. That is different. So in this way, different experiences are there, yes. Yeah. So this was your question, huh? Your question. You asked that question. Yes. But I myself, as a grihastha living outside, you have to be humble, no? I know of some cases somebody is with GBC, and also he's a GBC in his house. That's not good, never works out. The family will not understand. Even when Satchidananda Swami comes home to see his parents, he's their little son, and I'm the elder brother. It's like this. Family rules, Then outside he may be a big guru and so on. Even Prabhupada says that also. When he came back to see his family, he was just, one of the locals. Yes, nice that you've done this, fine. Take prasadam, sit here, please. Yeah. Yeah, so this is, one has to judge time, place, and circumstances. Okay. Haribol, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Right. Srila Prabhupada